Jagrative, Jai Masters. Some people think that spirituality is founded upon belief. I like that you not look at it that way. That there are certain unalienable truths, so to speak, that have nothing to do with beliefs. And that can be the foundation of your entire spiritual growth. I'm going to throw out 3 of them, and then we'll talk about them. 1, you're on a tiny little planet spinning in the middle of nowhere. Do you believe that, or do you know that? What do you mean tiny? I have this problem because my poor mind has been trained to always think of this. You look outside, it's gorgeous out here anyways. There's trees and grass and deer and all kinds of things. And you look out there and you say, what's that? Where did it all come from? Why is that what's in front of me? And then you use your mind for something constructive and you realize there's this little ball. It's so tiny. I'll show you how tiny it is in a second. This little ball is just spinning in dark space. We have looked at lots of those balls, like everyone in our solar system. There's gases, rocks, sand. There's nothing. Seriously. And will you look at what's in front of you? How did that happen? What is that? And I don't want an answer. I just want to be able to sit there and say, wow, this is quite different than all Mars and Saturn, isn't it? And this tiny little thing in the middle of nowheres, and I just have to do this, I'm addicted. Do you know that 1.3 million Earths fit in the sun? That's small enough for you? 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun. Okay, that's pretty amazing how little it is. There are 300 billion stars in your galaxy, and 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun. You must be pretty special landing on this planet, and you don't even know how you got here. But you ended up here, and it's amazing. So that's one truth. And by the way, I didn't finish it. There are 300 billion stars in your galaxy, and there are 2 trillion galaxies. Will you please just once in a while give reality a little thought? Because that's what's going on. Now, I could start right there, but I said there'd be 3, and say, how can you be having a problem? You picked the nicest place there is. I mean, give me a break. All right? We haven't found anything even close, and you got nothing but problems. We're all neurotic. How'd that happen? That's a nice discussion, because it doesn't make sense, does it? It's a pretty nice place. And it's just, there's a picture out there when you go out that door on this opposite wall. There's a picture that Cassini took. She was on her way to Saturn, and they turned her around at 2 million miles out to take a picture of the Earth. It's kind of one of those family photos. I keep it all the time in my face, all right? You can use your screensaver if you want. The trouble is it's all black, and there's this tiny little dot about that size. That's Earth. If you look really hard, there's a pinpoint, a pixel. That's the moon. And that's what you're on. And that's not a belief. That's a truth. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So you have to dare to ask, where's the beef? What are you complaining about? It just is unbelievable. From the moment you wake up in the morning, the moment you go to bed, every single day of your life, look, birds, they sing to you on this planet. There's everything. Okay, that's one truth. That alone should set you free. We'll talk about it more. That alone should make you say, hey, how can I have so many problems? I'm just sitting on a little planet, spinning around a little nowhere. Would you rather be on Mars with nothing happening? I don't think so. Wouldn't last very long, would it? It's kind of boring. Would you rather be in space? Like, space is fun. No, it's not. There's nothing there. Like 99.999% of your universe is empty space with nothing in it. I want you to think about it. Your nearest star next to your sun is, I believe, 4.4 light years away. That means at the speed of light, and I always have to do this because nobody gets it. You know what the speed of light is? Hold a photon or a piece of light in your finger for a moment. Let it go for 1 second. It's just circumnavigated the Earth 7.5 times. That's the speed of light. Go that speed for 4.4 years, and you might hit the next star, of which there are 300 billion. There, I touched one truth. You can go the whole way with that truth. That can free you completely. You just have to decide what you want to think about. And if you think about that, if you sit there and contemplate the reality of what's in front of you, you will enjoy it. You will have fun with it. Yes, it can be difficult. Yes, it can hurt. Yes, all kinds of things can happen, can't they? But at least something's happening. If you had to pick somewhere else, you would never go. Earth, Mars, the sun, different star. No, you would never pick it. You'd pick the Earth every single time, hands down. And yet all you do is complain. And so you have to be willing to ask that question. That's what a truth can do. You want to know the truth? I said there'd be 3. Here's the next truth. You ain't staying here. You got a handful of years. 60, 70, 80, 90 maybe even 100. What's the heck's the difference? Earth has been here for 4.5 billion years. And you're going to have how many? So you're not staying. You just drop down for a billionth of a second in the realm of things, and you have this beautiful planet, and look how difficult it is. Why? That's what you ask. You're going to see when we have this discussion, what people ask is, what can I do to be happier? What can I do to have more fun? What can I do to feel love? That's not the question. The question is, why don't you feel love? Why aren't you happy? And why do you have to do anything? You're sitting on a planet that's gorgeous. You have all this stuff going on free. It's free of charge. The trees are free. The water's free. Everything. And basically, you're just going to be here for a short period of time. Bye. That's what happens. That's how it goes. You're born. Goodbye. Right? So what's the problem? That is the truth, isn't it? You're not staying here, are you? If you will use your mind to contemplate reality, you don't have to have beliefs. Your mind doesn't have to, I believe in this, and don't you? Well, let's argue about it. What for? No one's arguing they're on a planet. No one's arguing that they're not staying. Just be willing to use your mind to contemplate reality. That's all I ask. Instead of you using your mind to get yourself all upset, that's a major part of what's being taught. You ready? The moment in front of you is not bothering you. You are bothering yourself about the moment in front of you. Somebody else wouldn't say a word about it. You decided to bother yourself about how the person in front of you is driving. They drive too slow. You decided to bother yourself because your girlfriend's talking to somebody else or your boyfriend didn't show up in the right time. I'm not saying you don't have the right to. You have the right to do whatever you want. That's what you decided to do. Bother yourself about the moment in front of you. Otherwise, it's not bothering you. It's just a moment. Don't worry. It'll be gone in 1 second. Not a single moment stays, does it? There's a woo, flying on by. Okay? So this is what we're talking about. Are you willing? You're brilliant people. Are you willing to hold the truth instead of make this mess that you're making in your mind? I'm going to repeat the whole theme. The moment in front of you is not bothering you. You are bothering yourself about the moment in front of you. Now, we can have a whole talk about why. In fact, my new book that's coming out soon exactly discusses that. How did that happen? Why am I doing that? Why are we all doing that? That's not a very rational thing to do, is it? You dropped on this phenomenal planet, and there's nothing else going on, and you're only going to be here for a little short period of time. You decided to bother yourself. About what? Everything. The temperature's too hot. It's too cold. Oh, my God, my hair's frizzy. Who said there's anything wrong with frizzy hair? Who said there's anything wrong with getting old? Who said there's anything wrong with getting sick? Who said there's anything wrong with anything? You did. We're getting serious here. You decided there's something wrong with that. You decide that you wanted to suffer here. Now, I'm not saying now that you are addicted to suffering, I'm not saying it's easy to change that. We can discuss that. That's what we call the path. But the reality of the fact is, and don't forget it, I've named 2 absolute truths. You're on a tiny planet in the middle of nowhere, you ain't staying. So then you get to decide. If I knew that, I would say, what do I want to do? What do I want to do here? You have a short period of time. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? You say anything you want. And what people have decided, I don't pick on you particularly, I want to suffer. Really? That's what you want to do. You want to worry, you suffer, you want to be scared, you want to be self-conscious. Which ones do you want to do? I'll give you a list, and I guarantee you which one you're picking. I want to be afraid people don't like me. I'm afraid that I said something stupid. I'm afraid that I don't really look good. I'm afraid that I'm getting old. I get varicose veins. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid. Afraid of what? What you decided to be afraid of. If you don't decide to be afraid of it, you're not afraid of it. It's something you did. You know who taught you that? Buddha. Buddha? What did he say? What's the first noble truth? All of life is suffering. There. Now if we talk about it this way, pretty true. Rich people, poor people, old people, young people, males, females, don't worry. And then he said, why? Why are people suffering? He looked around. People are suffering. If I call that suffering, that your mind's upset and you're worrying, and that's called suffering. Why are people suffering? And what did Buddha say? The cause of suffering. Which suffering? The broken leg or the divorce or the sickness? No. The cause of all suffering. The cause of all suffering is preference. You hear it as the word desire. A preference is a desire. A desire is a preference. I prefer to use the word preference. The third name patriarch used the word preference. I like that. Why? If you don't have a preference, you don't suffer. If you don't mind that it's hot, you don't mind it being hot. If you don't mind that someone stole your car, you don't mind walking. In other words, you set up a preference. And if the world does not match your preference, what happens? You suffer to one degree or another. Therefore, it is absolutely true. One of the most powerful spiritual lines ever written was written by the third Zen patriarch. He wrote a treatise on faith mind. And the first line is all you need. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. There's the truth. If you don't have a preference, you cannot deny that you don't care. Or I like the word you don't mind. You see, mind is a verb, not just a noun. Would you mind if I took your car? In other words, would your mind go, or would your mind not do that? That's what the verb mind means. How do you like that? All right, would you mind? You have to learn your language. You're saying truths. So basically, we now have the understanding that you're sitting on a planet in the middle of nowheres for a few years. If you don't make all of these rules in your head about what you like and what you don't like and who you don't like and how everything has to be exactly the way you want it to be, you won't suffer. So Buddha was right. The cause of suffering is preferences or desire. Now what was the third noble truth? To end suffering and desire. He was tough. He literally said, this is how it is. You all are suffering. You're suffering because your mind wants things to be a certain way and they're not that way. In other words, you have a preference. If you want to stop suffering, stop this preference stuff. Stop this desire stuff. Those are Buddhist teachings. There's only 4 noble truths in Buddhist teachings. What was the 4th? How to do it. How to get rid of preference, how to end desire, how to do that. I like preference because stopping desire sounds like renunciation. Don't do this, don't do that, don't have a desire, don't want that. You follow me? If you just sit there and say preference, you realize, yeah, I have a lot of preferences. They don't have to be real big. Like I said, and this is personal, I don't like that someone in front of me on a single line highway is driving 15 miles an hour below the speed limit when I'm in a rush. How about you? Okay. Therefore, if I'm stuck, I don't do it anymore. If I make it a game, if I'm stuck behind such a person, I have fun getting rid of not liking it. You just have fun. You can do things. What can I do? I have a preference. Or he does. He has a preference. He doesn't like that. Well, then use your mind to overcome your preference. It's not renunciation. I don't have to stop driving. I don't have to punish myself and I hate myself because I have a preference. I can sit there and say, what if that was your grandmother? And she's old enough to where she almost can't drive, so she's very careful, but she loves getting around. It's the only time she gets out of the house, and you really love your grandmother. Whoa, that changes it, doesn't it? Okay, Grandma, take your time. Nothing's more important. I don't want to beep at you or rush or drive right behind you. No, give her space. Who said you can't do that? There's no law. You're totally allowed to do it. You can do anything you want with your mind. So there's an example of how simple it is to live around here. Stop saying it's hard. It's hard because you made it hard. It's hard because you decided how everything needs to be. You decided how everyone needs to wear their hair, what they're allowed to believe, what they're allowed to do, how they're allowed to talk, and blah, blah, blah. If I send a normal person, but you don't want to be normal, by the way. If you send a normal person to Paris or some foreign country, an American, and they sat down in a restaurant and they wanted to eat and they don't speak French, I'm telling you, doesn't somebody speak English? Come on, some of you must speak English. What's wrong with you? That was called the ugly American back in the day, right? That's how Americans were and probably still are. There's an example of thinking your preferences are right. You can't let go of your preferences because you think they're you. This is who I am. The person that likes this, I like to drive like that. I don't like to drive like that. I like people who believe in this. It's called your self-concept. It's not yourself. It's the concept of yourself. It's something you built in your mind because of your experiences in life of what you like and what you don't like. And then you think it's supposed to be that way. Which one of you don't think it's supposed to be the way you like? And if something happens that you really don't like, that shouldn't have happened. What you made up in your mind about the way the world should be is how it should be. But that's not how it is. How do you know? Because it doesn't look at reality. That is spirituality, right there. It's very simple stuff. There's a world unfolding in front of you. You did not make it. You did not make the 24 trillion cells inside your body that are communicating with each other and dividing, and all this stuff is going on, and you did not do it. You don't make the sun come up. You don't make the grass grow. If a seed drops in the ground, do you make it turn into a tree or a cornstalk? I want to know, what is it that takes that seed and it turns into a tree or a cornstalk, a whole cornfield? It's unbelievable. I got those around here. What does that? There's water, there's soil with minerals in it, and there's sunlight. I want to know, what does that? I heard a rumor that there was a molecule, kind of spirally shaped, that is so intelligent that it takes the dirt, sucks up the dirt, the sunlight, and the water, and rearranges all the molecules. It's a chemist. Rearranges all the molecules to become tree molecules. It's called DNA. Did you make the DNA? Did you make the water? Did you make the soil? Wake up. You haven't done anything. Seriously. If you will look at what's in front of you, you did not do 0.0000001% of it. But I attracted this beautiful man or woman. You did not make their 24 trillion cells. You did not make their past. You did not make their parents' past. You did not do anything. There is a world unfolding in front of you that you did not make. You drop down here. Wherever you drop down, it's going on. If I pick up, put you there, there's another world going on. Pick you there, there's another world going on. But you don't do that because you built this self-concept. Like Buddha said, you built this concept of what I like and what I don't like. And now when you walk into this miraculous world that's doing all of this by itself, you sit there and say, it's not the way I want. And that's the problem. Just like Buddha said, the problem is you allowed your mind to become broken. The mind to sit there and just say, I know what's best for me. Well, you wouldn't even be here if all those other stuff was going on. And so a wise spiritual person doesn't have to have beliefs. You're welcome to, right? That's okay. Nothing wrong with them. But at least come down to reality. At least you're smart people. Some of you are here are honor school students and stuff. Well, why don't you take what you're learning in school, physics, chemistry, this, that, biology, and realize, God, I didn't do that. I didn't make the frog. I didn't make a tadpole become a frog. It's a bunch of atoms, isn't it? I went through business school. I didn't grow up as a scientist, but I have a periodic table. Somebody gave me a gift of a beautiful periodic table. It sits in my study. It's spiritual. It's unbelievable. Where did the periodic table come from? Where does the atoms come from? If you don't know, my new book actually has a spiritual book, self-help, has an entire section of where every atom came from. It's just like the tree. If you stop to think where it came from, it's unbelievable. It blows your mind. And then you have this periodic table where, 92, 93 natural elements or something. And basically, they just put themselves together. Like, I think I'm really impressed that you decoded the genome. What made the genome? What made that? What made the DNA molecule? You didn't, nor did Einstein. It made itself. You have two choices, and I'm fine with both, by the way. God did it. In other words, something we don't understand, way beyond our intelligence, beyond our comprehension. That's a good way to think of God. God did it, or science explained this whole quantum field and how the quarks and leptons and bosons pop out and how you have this wave and particle duality theory and that these particles are popping off of light. Ooh, that's real spiritual. You mean it's all made of light? I remember a time when that was spiritual people said stuff like that. Now the quantum physicists tell you and prove the whole thing is light. It's made of energy. And these particles pop off the energy, and then they put themselves together, and they make the DNA molecule. I'm fine with that. You don't have to use the word God. That's fine with me. In other words, I didn't do it. How's that? That's enough. If that's what you know about God or creation, is I didn't do it, you win. Because then you have no right to say what's going on. The final teachings are, you are not using your mind reasonably. You are using your mind to make yourself suffer. You're using your mind to make up, I'm not the creator of the world in any way, shape, or form, but I have made up how I want it to be. Somebody says one word the way you don't want to hear it, with a slight inflection, or some body language, it's over for you. That ruins your day, or week, or month, or year. Or it may ruin your life. You may never let it go. This is what you decided to do when you dropped down into the most beautiful planet in the whole universe, as best we can tell. Certainly in the solar system, we haven't found anything. And you're only going to be here for a few years? Let's make a royal mess of it with our minds. Now, I said there was a third truth that we would discuss, as if that wasn't enough. That should be enough. I should send you home and say, you should never have another problem for the rest of your life. And if you're having problems, that's like saying, I have a stomach ache. Well, you have been eating Peeps. That's the worst. It's the worst I can think of, right? You've been eating Peeps and washing them down with Coke, Pepsi or something, right? And that's your diet. That's your breakfast and your lunch, all right? And you wonder, you have a stomach ache. That's what happened to you on Earth. You dropped down to the most amazing planet in the whole place. You're only been here a few years. And look what you're doing with your mind. Look what you've done. You made it a suffering experience. Everything has to be exactly the way your mind's made up it needs to be for you to be okay. And if it's not, you really suffer. If it's really not the way you want. What happens if it's really not the way you want? Forget not the way you want. What if it's really the way you don't want? How do you feel? Good? Feeling good? Ready to go? No, it doesn't. It makes you suffer, doesn't it? I'm telling you, you did that. I'm not picking on you. I'm not yelling at you. I mean, I guess I am, but somebody should. Let's get that straight. The rest of the world wants to teach you how to get what you want. That's how you get happy. Get what you want. Buy insurance and cover yourself and protect yourself. So get what you want and protect yourself so you don't get what you don't want, and see if you have ulcers. Because you're gonna. By the way, when I'm a Jewish yogi, I like Christ. All right, his teachings are yoga. His teachings are as deep as they come. And what about a little saying about sooner a camel should pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man enter the kingdom of heaven? You've heard that one, haven't you? You wake up and you realize what he means by that is a rich man or woman is a person who has the wherewithal to get what they want. That's normally what people do with their money, don't they? I'll buy a plane, I'll fly over here, have lunch in Paris, and I'll see the whole world. In other words, I'm going to use money to make my life be get what I want. All right? And look what Buddha said. If that's what you're busy with, your desires and your preferences, that's not the great way. That's what's meant by that. You could have money. It has nothing to do with not having money. The question is, do you understand the cause of suffering? Do you understand why we all cry? Why you don't understand why we all have heartaches and problems and really bad? And like the younger generations are getting worse. You know that. I'm not judging them. They're having more psychological problems. Of course you are. You have more preferences. You go on the web and you look at how it's supposed to be and you're not that way. And the next thing you know, you don't like yourself. How do you not like yourself? That's a very silly thing to do with your mind. Your mind is brilliant. Your mind flew to the moon. Your mind made it cool in here at night. Your mind made it night light. Your mind is brilliant. You have a brilliant human mind. There's an entire chapter in the new book. The brilliant human mind. What are you doing with your brilliant human mind? Thinking about what you want and what you don't want and figuring out how to get it and getting upset because you don't get it. And since every single person wants it to be a different way, there's a formula for getting along. That's the problem. Buddha is right. The teachings are right. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. And the antithesis of that is the great way is really difficult. In fact, all ways are difficult for those who have preferences. Because you have to fight from the moment you wake up in the morning. How do I manipulate it? How do I get this person still to like me? How do I make sure that I'm not seeing somebody else? All right, how do I do it? How do I stay young? Come on. And you live in a society that completely sells that. That's all it's all about. You need all these things. And so therefore you develop that. Spirituality is simple. It's just saying, come on, there's a reality unfolding in front of you. Why don't we start with accepting it? Doesn't mean you can't work with it. You do need to work with it because we made a mess out of ourselves, right? But why don't we start with sitting there saying, yes, it's raining today. Yes, I need to go out and deliver this thing. And okay, I'll get wet. You get wet in the shower, It's really not something to get upset about. The reason you complain so much is not because things are the way they are. It's just they aren't the way you want them to be. Somebody else is refreshed by the rain. Wow, hippies used to do that. So dancing around. So now let's get down to this third truth. Here's the truth. You have within you great love and great joy. That's a nice one. Maybe you don't know that. Have you ever felt love? Just shake it. Have you ever felt love? I don't mean you feel it all the time. Have you ever felt love? Have you ever felt joy? Have you ever felt a spring of happiness well up inside of you? What does that mean? It means it's in me. Okay, so the question doesn't become, what do I do to get it? The question is, why don't I feel it all the time? Now we're going to have a serious discussion because nobody ever told you that you can feel it all the time. You have to go work for it. You have to perfect a relationship. You have to go buy things and have things the way you want to be happy, don't you? No, if there is happiness inside, then it's inside. You don't feel happiness outside. You feel it inside, don't you? You feel love inside. It's a feeling of good energy rushing up inside of you. Well, that means it's in there. Nobody's giving it to you. It's something that's inside of you. So the question becomes, why don't I feel it all the time? I'm challenging you. You have the ability to feel love and peace and joy and inspiration and just whoa every single second of your life. Why? Because it's in there. So why don't I feel it? I never thought you'd ask. There is an answer to that question. I know that you have felt that. And when you feel it inside yourself. I'm going to tell you something. If you've ever really been in love, when you're sitting there in an intimate moment, sitting with someone that you really love, and you're feeling love flow back and forth, your eyes are not wide open. Your eyes are closed. When you're hugging somebody that you really, really love, if their eyes are looking around, leave. Okay? I mean, give me a break, all right? And if they're looking behind your back, look at their phone. Basically, you come down to realize it's so beautiful inside that you can't keep your eyes open. You close them. Why would you close them? Don't you want to experience it? You do want to experience it. You don't want to be distracted from experiencing it. And since it's going on inside, your eyes are closed. It literally pulls you in, doesn't it? It pulls you in. The most beautiful moments you ever had are this energy coming up inside that you get to experience so you don't have all that neurosis going on in there. If that's in there, why don't I feel it all the time? Guess what? We already answered it. Because you developed something else in there, the personal mind. And you developed it. No matter what happened, if you let it go, it wouldn't be in there. There is no super glue in there. There's no fly paper. It's very etheric in there. And things come in and they go through. And you experience them. You can have them in memory. You can bring them back if you want. But they don't get stuck in there. Your structure of your mind is not such that it holds this stuff inside so it couldn't handle it. If there is something stuck inside your mind, you did it. Now, I'm not blaming you. I'm not yelling at you. You have will, don't you? Have you noticed that you can push things away in there? Do you have hands in there that can manipulate, hold on, and push away thoughts and feelings? You're doing this. You, the conscious being who lives in there. You're sitting there saying, that happened, it didn't feel good. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel what she said. I don't want to feel it. So the way you don't feel it is to push it away. In other words, keep it. It's very deep. I want to make sure you get it. Where do you think it goes when you push it away? Freud taught you it goes repressed or suppressed. Does it go away? Does it just dissipate? Okay, I don't want to feel it, but it's gone. No, it's not gone. Because you didn't let it go through, you know what I mean? Go through, it passes through. Trees pass through. White lines in the road pass through. All kinds of things pass through, don't they? How about 99% of everything you experience passes right through? But if you say, I can't handle this, this is wrong, I don't like this, you resist it. That's the key word. Like Freud used suppression and repression. I use resistance. That covers everything. That doesn't cover the big things you mess with. I'm interested in the little things. You resist the driver in front of you. You resist the fact that people are talking too loud in the restaurant. You resist the music they're playing in the restaurant because it's not the one you like. You resist. When you resist, you push the experience away so it can't just go through. Do you know what I mean when I say it goes through? You experience it. You know what it feels like to actually let it go through and experience it? You experience like a beautiful sunset. You turn the corner, and there's purple and magenta, all these colors coming out. What does it do to you? Whoa. It blows your mind. I love your words. You use good words. What does that mean, it blows my mind? All that garbage that I was doing in my mind isn't there right now. This thing was strong enough. And by the way, it's not that it's not there. This distracted you from it. Your consciousness can get distracted, can't it? That beautiful sunset distracted your awareness, your consciousness, to focus on that instead of your neurosis. How's that feel? Whoa, you used the word God for that. It was like a God moment. It was so beautiful. I felt God. Yes, you did. Yes, you felt a really high state, by the way. Because when things come in and go all the way back and touch you to the core of your being, well, the core of your being is very spiritual. Consciousness, awareness is a very holy thing. The consciousness itself is where your joy comes from, is where love comes from. It's a very deep state. So when you turn the corner and see that beautiful sunset, it distracts you from where you were putting your consciousness. And you put it on something that you're not resisting. You're open to it. What does that mean? You're not resisting it. Oh, I feel so open around him. Oh, God, it makes me feel so much love. When you are open, when you are not resisting, that's what openness means. Non-resistance. In the Untethered Soul, there's a chapter, The Spiritual Path of Non-Resistance. That's what you're talking about. If I in here do not resist this experience, it comes all the way through and touches me. And that's what a hug can do. And that's what holding your first child can do. And that's what looking at the sunset can do. That's what all these magic moments can do. They're in there all the time. But you're busy resisting. You're busy pushing it away so you can't experience it. Why? Because it didn't match what you wanted. How do you decide what to push away? I didn't like it. How do you decide what to let in? I liked it. Here we are back to Buddha's teachings. We're back to preference. Now, it's not enough that when something happens and you resist it, you don't get to experience it. Instead, you experience the resistance, the closing, but you actually didn't get to experience what it would feel like if it came all the way in. That's why I said to you, ultimately, though that's a very high state, you can feel that love, that joy, that openness, that God all the time. How? Don't resist. How? That becomes more difficult. We can discuss that. But understand, it is because you are resisting that you get this tension. That's what anxiety is. That's what tension is. That's what all of it is. If you push against a force that's trying to pass through, you're going to get tension. That's what's happening inside. You're resisting the experience of reality. Therefore, it's getting tight in there. It's getting not so comfortable in there. Right? Now, something greater happens, or worse, greater or worse, call it whatever you want. When you resist it, not only do you have the experience of resisting, which takes pressure and time, but it actually stays in there. What do you mean? Now, I know you've never experienced this, but something that happened to you 20 years ago can still be bothering you. Can you still be bothered by your childhood? Can you still be bothered by your ex-husband or wife? Can you still be bothered by something that happened to you 15 years ago that isn't happening anymore? Wow. You mean you collected bad experiences and expect to feel good? Every experience that ever happened to you that was not comfortable to you, you pushed away. It's still there. So you wake up and you realize the whole thing is about resistance. Back to Buddha. The whole thing is you develop preferences, and therefore things don't feel good, or they do. If they feel good, you cling to them. If they don't feel good, you resist them. But it's clinging. Clinging is as much of a problem as resisting. Why? Somebody says something to you. It really felt good. It was really beautiful. It was the most beautiful thing anybody ever said to me. They told me how much they loved me, and I believed it, and I was so open. It was so beautiful, right? Well, where are they now? I don't know. I'm looking for them. I've been looking for them for the last 15 years. In other words, you clung to something, and because it was so nice, you wouldn't let it go. And now you're judging everything based on that. You can't have another relationship because you compare it to this. So even the positive things that should have come in and been so beautiful, it's called be here now, isn't it? So beautiful it comes through. By all means, experience it. It says basically it comes in, it washes over you like the beautiful sunset, like a kiss, like the first kiss. It's just so beautiful. And then the next event happens. But if you can't let that one go, you don't want there to be a next event. You want that one to happen again. And you mess yourself up. So you mess yourself up both ways. If you don't like it, you push it away and hold it inside of you. If you do like it, you cling to it. And now you've built a mind made out of you. It doesn't experience reality. It doesn't want this to happen, and it wants this to happen. And you walk into every moment of your life that way. This is what I want to happen. This is what I don't want to happen. That's what you did with your mind. Now, we're not done. You're not dumb. You know darn well, I don't want this to happen. I do. It's not going to happen by itself. That's silly. You better do something about it. So the first thing I do is decide what I don't want to happen, what I do want to happen. I use my mind for that. I suppress and hold on to these things. Then I go to my brilliant mind, the one that split atoms and flew to the moon and did these brilliant medicine. Oh my God, it does such brilliant things. And I say, oh, brilliant mind, don't think about that stuff. Think about how I can get what I want and avoid what I don't want. You're attempting to manipulate so that you can get what you want and avoid what you don't want. And so basically you wake up and you realize that's what I did. The Bible says you were given free will. You were. In there, you have free will. Out here doesn't mean everything's going to happen the way you want, but in there, you're the only one in there. Get that straight. Don't you ever blame anybody for anything that happened inside of you. Because it already happened. It's over. Your whole childhood is over. Your ex-husband is over. Your ex-wife is over. They're over. They're not happening anymore. If they are bothering you, you did that. You didn't have to keep them in there. You can let them go. What's stopping you? What's stopping you from letting go what happened in your childhood? You. Because you don't want to experience it. I'm being tough. You don't want to feel what it felt like to have your father leave or have your mother yell at you, or you don't want to feel it. So you push it back down. Well, great. So now you're running around with all these experiences that bothered you, afraid to feel them again. And you wonder why you feel so much fear. And you wonder why we need all this therapy and all this stuff. Because you did that. Nobody else did that. The events, you didn't have control over the events. I understand that. But you do in there, and someone needs to teach you this once and for all, you can let them go. You do not have to hold these things inside of you. You can have a bad experience, go through it. It hurts. It's bad. It's a bad experience. He said, boo. He scared you. What we call bad experiences nowadays is somebody said something you didn't like. That's really tough. Right? You never talk to the person again for the rest of your life because they said something that hurt you. But that's not a bad experience. That's an experience that didn't feel so good. I mean, bad experiences. What's going on in Ukraine right now, those are bad experiences. Hitler was a bad experience. Let's get that straight. Those are bad experiences. Not because somebody said something you didn't like and so it bothered you. So you wake up, you sit there and say, all right, if I let this go, yes, it bothered me. I'm not denying. I'm not denying it bothers you. Things have different vibrations, don't they? Buddhists say everything has its nature. So something can come in that doesn't feel good. You don't have to keep it there. It didn't feel good, so I'm going to keep it. How about we say, I don't want to keep it. I don't want to suppress it because that keeps it. I want to learn to let it pass through. And you can learn to. First time you step in a tennis court, how'd you do? First time you sat on a piano, how'd you do? You don't quit. You learn. Well, this is worth learning. If you could learn to let life pass through and then deal with it. I'm not saying you don't deal with it, but you don't deal with it because you suppressed it, because you can't handle it. So what the teachings are saying, as we've been saying all night, reality is unfolding in front of you. If you can't handle reality, how about we learn to handle reality? Just like we learn to play the piano, just like we learn to play tennis. How about you learn to let go? How about you learn to say, I'm on this planet for a few years, and things are going to happen, aren't they? Things are going to happen, and I can handle it. Ooh, I like that completely. Isn't that a nicer thing to say? I can handle it. How would you like that every time something happens? I can handle this. No matter what happened, your mind said, I can handle this. Wouldn't that be nice? Better than I can't handle it? This is your spiritual growth. It's understanding you dropped onto a planet for a few years and you made a mess by setting up all these preferences and saying, I can't handle things and I don't like what he said and I can't handle it. Instead, you train yourself. You're trainable. You're seriously trainable. You learned calculus. You understand what I mean when I said the quantum field. Wow, you're very brilliant people. Then you can learn to handle things. You just have to decide, I would like to learn that. That's all. It's all about intent. That's your beginning, is intent. Your entire spiritual path is founded on handling reality. Why? Because you did not make reality. It's very, very big. I told you, 300 billion stars in your galaxy, and there are 2 trillion galaxies. Please think about that once in a while. It will change your life. So now you realize this is what's going on, and I'm going to be the exception. I'm going to learn to handle it. Doesn't mean that when you handle it, doesn't mean you don't do something about it. Let's say I couldn't handle blood. Well, you're not going to do well at the accident. Now I can handle blood. Okay, I win. Goodbye. No, help the person. Once you handle it, you have the inspiration, the wherewithal to deal with things. It's when you can't handle it, you make a mess. And you make reactive decisions. You never talk to somebody again, or you can't even look at. There are people that people can't even look at in the face ever again. Don't ever let that happen to you. Don't allow it. What does that mean? It means an event is going to take place. If you suppress it or you cling to it, you own it. If from the moment you experience it, you realize, I do not want to build a concept of self built around the stuff I couldn't handle. And that's what you have now. And the person doesn't like him and doesn't like him, but she likes her. I don't like water. I don't like the thing. I like to swim a little bit, but not more than 5 minutes. And you just developed all these preferences and then said, that's who I am. That's what the self-concept is. I am my preferences, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. And if you don't agree with me, I don't like you. Okay? And I'll make a clique out of people that agree with me. You wake up and you realize, I don't want to do that anymore. So the moment it happens and you see the tendency to resist, let go now or fall. If you buy into this shouldn't have happened and I don't like it, and I don't like you because it happened, you were standing there. You didn't even do anything, but you happened to be standing there when it happened. Now I'm embarrassed to be around you. All that personal junk, if you don't let it go immediately, it instantaneously gets suppressed, gets held, and becomes part of you. No. You just decide, not on my watch. Not on my watch. And the whole rest is your spiritual practice. I'm not going to give you a spiritual practice. You figure out all kinds of stuff. You figure out how to get people to like you, don't you? Figure out how to be attractive. You figure out all kinds of stuff, right? Figure out how to not store that stuff inside. And what's going to happen is more and more, you're going to find out, because the sky is blue, it turns me on. Remember that song with the Beatles? All right? Everything will turn you on because it will be free to hit you, to come all the way into you. Like, you can enjoy anything you want. All right? You can enjoy a hot day, a cold day, whatever you want. How about you start catching on? I want to be open. That's what I want. I want to enjoy life. I want to enjoy all of life. I want to sit there and say that life is full of experiences, and I love experiences. I don't have to go get them. They don't cost anything. They come free of charge. Every moment is an experience. What if you learn to love life? That's what it means to grow spiritually. It has to do with letting go of this junk that you have collected inside of you without realizing how damaging that is. I leave you with that thought. If you collect everything that ever bothered you throughout your life, how are you going to do? You're going to be bothered because that's what you collected. You collected bad experiences. And now they come back up, don't they? And the more you live, the heavier it's going to get. People, it's not true that old people bend over because of structural problems. It's because of the weight that they're carrying. All right. That's the best I can do for a primer. Like, please, I'm begging you, beautiful young people, there are no problems. You created them. They're just experiences. The more experiences you're okay with, the better off you are. Dare to say, I want to take the experiences of life and learn to let them pass. Doesn't mean they feel good, but I want to let them pass. It's a fun game. It's like a video game. It's the ultimate video game, right? Pac-Man will get you, right? Let it go. Keep letting go. And when you see what happens, people write me from all over the world who read The Untethered Soul and so on. And I said, my God, I never realized I could just let it go. It's so easy. And all of a sudden I feel so happy. And I'm so open. Now you understand spirituality. All right. Very good. Jagradiv.